How can the HR function really create an employer brand? What should be the strategy? The HR function needs to define the vision of the organization very clearly. Not only the HR function, also the organization leadership. They need to define the vision of the organization. And they should be able to cascade the vision to the employees so that they can advocate that and then take it to the external world through various social media platforms. There has to be a very defined strategy. It will not happen accidentally. It will not happen just like that. There has to be a strategy. So if a company decides that they will do external branding using social media and they will get their employees to talk about their company, like as I walked into your institution and I met some of your senior colleagues, and they were telling me with pride that we are the #1 institution in the state of Maharashtra. And when you hear that from the students, that makes much more difference than the management of the institution and standing up and saying we are the #1. So the moment students say that, that makes a huge difference. Similarly, when the employees say we are the best I'm working for the best company in the world or one of the top 5 companies in the world, that makes a difference. So there has to be a very defined strategy, the frequency of communication, what we communicate, how you communicate, which are the platforms that we should use to communicate, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn, whether you communicate through discussion forums and groups. That strategy, the communication strategy, has to be defined by the HR function. And those champions need to be trained on how to do this. So it has to be a very well structured, well thought out branding strategy to be able to attract talent into the organization. So now let's move on. Apart from recruitment, which are the other areas where HR can leverage social media? Another space where HR will be effective in using social media is training and development. Talent management strategy. So traditionally, we all know that training is about being in a classroom, sitting in a classroom and then listening to lectures. But that's changing. That's completely changing now. The training strategy, the deployment strategy of training is now going through a major shift. So now training is a combination of many things. When you go through, in a corporate, when people go through training, before the training there are some activities which are called pre-training activities, where the trainer engages with employees, whoever is the trainer, and there is pre-work, there is pre-activity before the training starts, there is collaboration, all that happens. There are trainers who use collaboration as a tool as part of the training deployment. And post-training, a lot of collaboration happens among employees and trainer through various social media platforms, through discussion boards, through Twitter, and through other. Interestingly, before I walked into this session today, I think we have been communicating for the last few days, isn't it? Some of you are posting queries on Twitter, and then I tried answering some of them. Of course, we not answer all of them because of time constraint or whatever. But our engagement started even before this session, the session that's happening at this moment. So that's a great example. And a lot of collaboration and collaborative work is also happening post-training. In the conventional sense, training is one to many. In the present scenario, training is not one to many. What is it? What is it today? It is many to many. Okay? So we all can train each other. All of us can coach each other, can share information with each other. We can reach out to each other. So it's not one to many anymore. So that's the major shift that is happening today. And what has made it possible? Of course, social media. So if I go and post something on Facebook or in my LinkedIn, there are 100 people who can jump in and then give their opinion. So I could have 100 different responses to one query, which will benefit 100 other people at the same time. So social media has changed the way training has redefined learning and development, and because of social media today, many to many interaction has been possible. So that's a major shift that we're seeing in training and development space. So what we're seeing today is trainers and learners are very effectively using various modes of social media. You can see shared workplace, SharePoints. Every organization would have SharePoint to collaborate. Those who have got work experience, you would have seen that. Wikipedia, Google Docs, many other shared platforms which are being used for not only for training and also for collaboration. Videos are a very powerful medium for training, for learning, for example. So you can go to YouTube and virtually learn everything, by watching videos. The other day, so my son goes to school and he plays basketball. Other day I saw him watching YouTube video. I said, "What are you watching?" He said, I'm learning how to play basketball." I said, "What are you saying? I mean, how can you learn how to play basketball using YouTube?" He said, "No, I'm learning some important tricks. I'm getting some important tricks and tips from these videos." So today, videos are an extremely powerful medium. When I started this session today, I started with a YouTube video. And what that video said in 5 minutes, I could not have explained that to you in about 50 minutes. So that's the power of video. So if you're an HR professional, understand the power of videos, how we can leverage it for employee learning and development. Look at podcasts, blogs, microblogging, which is Twitter today, social network discussion boards on Facebook and WhatsApp. I run about a few WhatsApp platforms for learning and development practitioners, and then we largely use it for learning, for sharing, for knowledge sharing, information sharing. And every Monday we start a topic, and then people participate, they contribute their ideas, then they contradict each other, they challenge each other, they kind of agree or disagree with each other, and then at the end of the discussion after a week, we kind of consolidate and then create a transcript of all that conversation that happened, and that gets converted into an article or write-up, whatever, which is available for everybody. So typically what happens is, not only we share knowledge and kind of learn from each other, we also co-create knowledge artifacts which can be used by many. It's not the 100 people who are participating in the discussion, the thousands of people can leverage a document that you're creating, co-creating. So co-creation is the theme. It's not just creation, it's co-creation. And that's the theme that organizations can leverage and then get their people to co-create knowledge which can be leveraged by thousands of employees in an organization. Of course, virtual chats and many other modes of social media which is available for training and development. So typically, if you break down training into 3 parts, pre-training, the actual training, and post-training, social media can play a role in each segment of training or learning and development. Okay. So how are people collaborating and engaging? How are HR leaders and managers engaging and communicating and getting their employees to collaborate and engage with each other within the organization? But before we get into that, let's look at some interesting facts. I'm sure you'll be interested in seeing this. Okay, so we're going to talk about different generations and how do they view social media differently. This information will be interesting. Each generation would view social media differently. And if you're an HR leader, you must understand that you cannot have one single social media strategy which might cater to the needs of all different categories of employees in the organization. You'll have to have a balanced strategy which would help your entire larger organization. As an HR professional, you keep that in mind. So, you know about these different generations? Gen Y, Gen X, baby boomers. Are you familiar with them? What generation you guys belong to? Gen Y. Okay. So you are also called millennials. And generation before you are Generation X, Gen X. And before that were the baby boomers. And before that, the traditionalists were probably, most of them are probably not in the workforce today. I guess most of them have retired. And some of them could be there in consulting positions and things like that, or in social enterprises. But the corporate industry, corporate world would not have many of them. So mostly we'll say baby boomers and Gen X and Gen Y. An interesting thing about generations are every generation believes that they are smarter than the previous generation and more mature and knowledgeable than the coming generation. They always believe that, their previous generations were not as smart as they are, and they believe that the next generation is not as sensible as they are. So that's the problem with every generation. So generation diversity is a very interesting subject in the HR space today. I think if you are more interested, you can go deeper into that, understand the psyche and the value system, the attributes of each generation. But now today our theme is social media and how every generation looks at social media. Generation, the traditionalists, they hate social media. They don't like it. Because how can you communicate through social media? How can you communicate? They would complain as the husband and wife sitting in the same room and then communicating with each other on Facebook. But how can you do that? You can only talk to each other. So they believe in face-to-face interaction. They do not believe in social media. But the baby boomers also believed that the face-to-face interaction is better than interacting through social media. Gen X, they have kind of slightly trending towards social media, but they believe it's not so much of social media, but you can communicate through some virtual platform like email, etc. Face-to-face meeting is also essential. Okay? But the present generation says, Gen Y, they say, well, we can just communicate through social media. I mean, why we need to spend time talking, And then we can communicate through social media with people across the organization, and we can collaborate. We have different tools. We can upload documents. We can work on the same document together. We can do a lot of design stuff together. A lot of things we can do using social media. We really don't have to have meetings all the time. So each generation looks at social media differently. So as an HR leader, you will have to be cognizant of the fact that in your organization there are people who belong to different generations. So you will have to have a strategy which is a mix of face-to-face interaction as well as social media interaction. So I have been talking to HR managers who say in employees, leaders, CEOs of the companies used to have the town halls, the coffee talks. But with Generation Y, it's not working anymore. The town halls are not working. They're not interested in sitting for 1 hour and listen to the CEO. Not interested. So those things are going away. But Generation X or baby boomers would still prefer that personal interaction. So as an HR leader, you will have to figure out how to do that. Can you do a balancing act? Can you have a virtual all hands meet using social media where there is a human interaction? It's not a recorded session or anything like that. There is somebody speaking in real time, answering questions, etc. Using the virtual medium. At the same time, there's technology which is driving this. I'm just giving an example. There are different ways you can, people can really collaborate. So what's important is for an organization to have an enterprise social media strategy. And organization needs to have an enterprise social media platform. There are many platforms available today, which are the third-party platforms which an organization can procure and use. Or if you're a technology company, if you have an IT setup, you can develop your own platform. But you need to have your company's Facebook. You need to have your organization's Facebook or whatever platform it is. You need to have that. It's extremely important to develop one like that, and also have a HR policy around social media. Okay? We'll talk more about it when we get into the risks associated with social media. But every organization, especially the HR leader, needs to have a social media policy for the organization. Few years ago, companies did not allow employees to access Facebook, YouTube, etc. in their premises, on their network. But that's changing today. Most companies have realized that they cannot control people. You cannot control people, that you can't use this, you can't use that. So, bearing some minimal restrictions which are in the interest of the organization, most companies have started giving access to people to use social media platform. So it's extremely important that a company has a social media strategy as an enterprise social media platform, and also a policy which would govern the usage of that social media platform. Some interesting facts, which generation uses social media the most, and then how much time they spend on social media. You can take a look at it. I'll not read them verbatim. While some of you talked about the flip side, the downside of social media, one thing I can tell is if the social media plan, the social media strategy is devised effectively, and there's a mechanism through which you govern this. This can become a very powerful tool for employee engagement and productivity. The argument against social media is social media at work is unproductive. It makes employees unproductive because people are always on Twitter and Facebook. The argument for social media is social media can make employees very productive. So that's the argument. The argument against is people will be on the platform and then just communicate all the time. The argument for this is people can collaborate through social media across multiple locations, sitting in different buildings, different regions, because companies today are cross-regional, they're spread across the globe, so they can collaborate using the platform. And through collaboration, they can become more productive. So, but I think the reality is, if you have a effective and efficient strategy, which has some control mechanism wherever it is required, it can really make employee engagement better and stronger. It can also make social employee productivity higher, and it can also lead to innovation and collaboration. This is an example of social media. This is the platform that this is a platform that I have started on Facebook, which is called the Learning and Development Community of Practice. So since I belong to that fraternity, I have brought about, at this moment, there are about 90,000 plus learning and development practitioners from across the globe who are members of this community. And we collaborate, we co-create, and we also contribute through this platform. And now this platform has expanded to different other, we have a website, we have blogs, we have different other groups, and then we have also kind of transitioned to local chapters where the learning and development practitioners in different cities come together once a month and they meet, and then they continue sharing knowledge. So quickly, we'll go through this because it's important that we not just talk about great things about social media, we also talk about what are the risks associated with it, and how do you really address some of those risks, potential risks. So risks can be both internal and external. Possibly the internal risks would be employees, knowingly or unknowingly, they could leak important information. When I go to Facebook and start writing, I can write something about my company, which I should not share. That's the possibility. So, well, I am coming here and speaking, and I don't know, somebody in this room might be tweeting. And you might just say, Surya Mahapatra from HP says this, and it goes to all over the world. Okay? So then I go back to office tomorrow, and then my manager calls me to his room and then says, did you say this? And why did you say this? So that's a potential risk associated. The creation of public and therefore information that can be easily discovered in the public domain That is another potential risk. Ownership issues regarding public forum network where employees might engage with customers to discuss business issues. So who owns this? Various discussion. Who is the right person to kind of comment on a particular topic? When you're having discussions, who takes the ownership of a very effective communication and conversation between the employee and the customer? Because the credibility of the organization is at stake when you are allowing employees of a company to go and talk freely with the customers or with the public. Introduction of sensitive personal information into the workplace. That can be another risk. What are the external risks? Potential for viral growth of negative sentiment, either in response to organizational communications or simply a market discussion in products or services. While good things can go viral, the bad things can go as well. So sometimes you can say that effectively you can use social media to build a brand, but even unknowingly sometimes without your intent, sometimes any information about your company or products, if there is some information which is not very pleasant, that could also get discussed in public forum and then build public opinion against your organization. So that's something you have to be careful. Inappropriate or inaccurate commentary on organization financial performance. Well, there could be your employees could start talking about your financial performance. They may not be competent enough to talk about your financial performance, and sometimes it could create wrong sentiments in the market about your organization. Misrepresentation of organization's position in public issues. So when your employees go and kind of take positions or give their views, it could be wrongly perceived as the opinion of the company. So what I am saying here today is my personal opinion. Though I belong to an organization, I do not, what I am sharing with you right now is not my company's position. Let me make it clear to all of you. What I am sharing with you is my personal opinion, my personal views on this topic. But when somebody goes out and speaks, who belongs to a particular company, especially a senior leader, and if he or she says something, it could be understood or perceived as a position of the organization. So that's the risk associated with social media. Damage to company's reputation or desired brand image, data privacy issues, imprisonment on data privacy and other personal privacy, information security and all of that. Those could be potential risks associated with risks. But as you said, every single program or every single technology, every single initiative that you bring in, it will always have positives and negatives. Okay? So social media would also bring along with it its associated risks, like anything else that you can imagine. So as HR leaders, you need to devise a policy which will safeguard your organization against those policies. So you need to have the do's and don'ts for your employees. You need to have guidelines on what people can share in social media and what they cannot share. You need to have training sessions for your employees, helping them understand how they can effectively use social media. You need to maintain confidentiality about your organization. These are the safeguards that an HR leader you can bring about and then make a big difference. So now the question, ladies and gentlemen, is your social media journey has just begun in the corporate world. As you're going to take up your positions in the next few years, you're kind of gearing up for that. The question is, are we all ready? So with this note, I would like to conclude here and then open it up for questions.